Right, it is live.
Would you like to introduce Gemma?
Go for it, Janie.
All right, well, welcome back and welcome everybody to the Echo Chamber, and in particular, welcome back Gemma Star. We haven't had Gemma on for, oh God, how long, Gemma? It's been well over a year. We can't keep up with time, can we? It's quite crazy. So, but Gemma Star is a true heart warrior. And lately she's a poet and a beautiful soul sister and wraps the world in love. And lately Gemma's been interviewing a lot of really fabulous men and with a series called Man Speak, and I think Heart Warriors, is that correct, Gemma?
That's right, yeah.
And you can, I just said to Gem, I'm a little bit nervous because she's been in contact with some really high flying men around the world who are sharing their wisdom, and I'll let Gemma tell you all about that. But we wanted to share Gemma with you if you haven't heard of her before, because she's bringing some really important stuff into the field, really important. So because we know we have to protect the heart. The heart is it's the thing these devils, they can't get a hold of our heart. That's what stopped them from taking us over completely. So I'll let you speak to the heart, Gemma, because I know that's where your heart is. So take it away, Gem. Tell us what you've been doing.
Well, the first thing I picked up on, and this is when you said we have to protect the heart. Well, I disagree with that. We have to open the heart in trust and faith, because it's the protection that's kept us closed. So already that, it's just reprogramming the mind to open. And of course, there are instances when we do have to protect ourselves, but it's becoming aware of that and hopefully opening more than we need to close, so, and it's through that open heart that we can then create beauty and divinity in the world. So just being aware of that. But see, I see it like this, and I haven't studied this stuff. I haven't, done all the scholarly stuff. I can only speak from my own experience. And my journey is one I think a lot can relate to, whereas I had my mind awakening sort of back in 2012 to the external the illusion and inversion, the reality of the external world not being exactly as we are sold. And then it got to a point where just focusing on that, all the rabbit holes, all the truther stuff actually caused more chaos in my mind and heart. So I backed away completely in about beginning of 2016 and went into right away from that stuff and started meditating and sort of really coming into connection through that with my own heart and divinity, and coming to what I call my heart awakening, which is when my poetry started coming through at the end of 2016. And then sort of stayed in that scene for a while, healing and, sort of what is love? Why am I in emotional chaos with relationships and things? So really sort of grabbing an awareness of that. And then at the end of February 2020, when, all this BS hit the world, I was thrown back into the truther scene, but I could come back with the awareness of the heart and to bridge them both, and to what I call be 1 foot in the 3D, 1 foot in the 5D, and actually bring that 5D into the 3D. We're aware of the truther stuff, but not attached to it and not letting it throw me off balance from my inner peace that I'd cultivated through my heart awakening.
How important is it, Gem? Expand on that, keeping 1 foot in 3D and 1 foot in 5D. How do we balance that in this day and age?
Well, being aware of, what's out there, but not being energetically attached to it. So, for example, yesterday was a great example with Mr. T's speech. A lot of people had a lot of expectations on that. And yeah, I listened to it. And I mean, I love the man, but he's not a savior. And so when people didn't get the message that they were hoping for, a lot became disillusioned and disappointed. And I must admit, for one moment, I was like, oh, stuff another 2 years of this. I'm going off to 5D, taking myself there instead of all this, one foot in both. But then after 5 or 10 minutes, sort of, I came to realize, okay, well, whatever he's doing, and at some point, whatever's happening in America doesn't affect me in my kingdom that I've created, my sovereignty. And that's an energetic space. I know, I'm still living here in Australia under what some would consider the system, but I'm not attached to that. I create my own peace and happiness. I'm not dependent on that external system for this. So coming back to your original question, it's really just about, and we create our inner kingdom of sovereignty by creating it first within ourselves, within the peace of our mind and the love of our heart, and then manifesting that into our home and our family and our relationships, and then our community and out into the world. You can't pretend to create peace in the world if you're not peaceful in your mind, because this is the world we live in, which is then projected onto the outside world. So we've been told that we have to change the external to have peace inside, when it's the opposite. Whatever is happening in the external, if we haven't got a peaceful mind to dwell in and a peaceful heart to live in, we're never going to be satisfied, however beautiful the external world is, because it's a temporary illusion. Whereas the peace and the love we cultivate inside, no one can ever take that from us. So that's the not temporary, but the everlasting place to be, that no one, even if you're sitting in a prison cell, if you've got that peace of mind and the peace and the love in your heart, you can sit there and not be in a state of chaos.
Yeah. You got any questions for Gem?
Yeah, I want to ask you about your series, Man Speak and Heart Warriors, because it's beautiful, and it's something that I was called to do at one point too, but I can see that you're the perfect person for this particular series, so it's why I have a particular interest in it, because I also have actually interviewed some of the men that you've already interviewed on your podcast for my own podcast. So it's really inspiring to see how far you've taken this and what you're doing. And I make no secret of the fact that I serve the rise of the feminine, and I'm serving the rise of women. However, not at the expense of our men. I can't stand comments like the future is female and, women all the way. For me, I think that the men and the women need to rise, and these beautiful men that are rising up into the heart and stepping forth to be the new man on planet Earth. Why do you think that's important, and why do you think it's so crucial to hear their voices right now in this space?
Because there's been a deliberate attack on healthy masculinity, because the powers that be know that is we the people, that is one of our greatest resources. Healthy masculinity, healthy femininity, healthy families and relationships. So, they've done everything they can, one through the feminist movement, women's lib, where they destroyed organic femininity, and now through the attack on the healthy masculine, through transgenderism, through feminizing our men, all these, the bombardment that we all get through Hollywood and media. And even now, I was talking to a friend yesterday explaining the series, and she works in a government job, and she said, yeah, it's terrible. Like, there's all the flyers on the walls, like saying that, basically men need to stop attacking women, putting us in the victim phase, but also generalizing all men. It's this real suppression of the masculine, whereas now we're going to reverse that, and men are stepping into their healthy masculinity. But men are confused, like we as women were, like, what is healthy femininity? What is healthy masculinity? Because we've been programmed and conditioned, but of course it's all an illusion and inversion. So men sort of have to come back to their authentic selves, and what makes them feel good, they've been suppressed, their healthy masculinity, just as our healthy femininity was. So it's all about coming back to that. And through the series, I've been writing now since 2016, and often, I'd have ideas of how, healthy masculinity should look like, but through writing, and I'd try and express it through the feminine perspective. But then I realized that men, us women, we've been trying to tell men how to be men, which is men need to hear it from other men. And so, I mean, to cut a long story short, basically, I didn't have a YouTube channel, but, a few things happened. And I woke up one morning with a very clear knowing, oh, I'm going to interview men. Okay. And really, it was just providing this platform for men to speak directly to other men about their experiences, they're getting from their deepest, darkest moments, getting through that into where they are today, tools, practices, insights, wisdom. What can they share now with other men coming into this path? Because there's a great deal of suffering out there, men and women, but unfortunately men would appear not to have the resources that us women have. So, it's been interesting that a lot of the men have stressed the importance of the brotherhood, of men talking to other men. And just, this series also provides a lot of resources around that. I mean, some of the men I interview are male coaches and mentors, but some aren't. So it's just the whole spectrum. I'm trying to get all sorts of men, from poets to boxers, not to have a cookie cutter image of what masculinity is. And it's definitely, I've done 39 now. And when I first had the idea, it was going to be like 100, and who knows if it'll go over that. But I mean, this all happened since mid-July. So what's that? August, September, October, not even 4 months, and but yeah, a lot of fun, and so many. When women say, where are all the good men? They're out there, like, come and look at my channel.
I'm curious, Gemma, if you've faced any, and I can only speak from my own experience, my platform, Serve the Wild Woman, where I talked about, doing some of these interviews with these men and holding space for these beautiful men. Women had put me in a box of being a feminist, right? So when I started interviewing these men, I was torn down by other women saying, oh my God, I can't believe you're putting men ahead of women. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I need a little bit of clarity around here. Have you come up against any of that, or has it felt really smooth and effortless, and the world's ready for everything that you have to share?
Now, I've only ever had one attack, and it unfortunately came from a man and someone that I knew personally. But I don't want to give that energy. But no, I've had full support from women and men. And when last time I checked on the sort of the stats on YouTube, it was being viewed by more women than by men. And when I felt into that, because when I've finished an interview, I feel I've come, this wasn't an intention of the series, but I feel I've come away with a beautiful healing from the healthy masculine. And I think women watching this series are probably picking up on that too, like women like myself who in real life maybe don't have a lot of connection with this healthy masculine energy, and now seeing it one after the other, and it's a beautiful place for the feminine to be in and receive that healthy, masculine energy. So no, it's been embraced fully, except for this one attack, which was, maybe a week ago, which I just totally blocked out of existence, and and continued on.
Beautiful.
Do you think, and knowing that you have more women than men watching, do you think that men aren't? What's holding men back from wanting to know more about becoming a man? Is it something like that? Why do more women watch than men, do you think?
I think just because more women are in this sort of conscious awareness, truther community overall. I mean, the ratio of men is going to grow now. I mean, this is the men's movement, and by all accounts, it's going to be bigger than the women's movement, but it's just starting. So this is being a resource that I feel is being cultivated for the years to come. So it doesn't matter about the stats now, but when we get this big flood of men choosing to be more aware and more active in their healing process, this is one resource that's going to be available to them. So it's just a matter of an overall overall ratio of the whole conscious awareness community, and this is what I feel that when I reflect on the last 10 years, I feel the feminine as an energy had to heal first for now the masculine to heal, because we had to have a safe heart for them to land, a safe place for them to land. Because while we were, as women, more in our masculine, we were attacking and defending men who maybe showed their vulnerability, showed that they had something, some shame or guilt or something that they had to heal. We weren't particularly inviting men into that healing space. So if I can see the larger collective as a projection of myself, I know I had to heal my heart so that I could listen and be with men without judgment and without projecting my own wounds. And you've got to remember that I came from a 10-year physically, mentally and emotionally abusive marriage. So that was, 20 years ago now, maybe I came out of that, I don't know, 15, whatever. So it's not like I've done the work, So this is what the feminine has to do to make her place, her heart, a safe place to be, that now the men can soften into that healing space and heal, so then they can then go out in their strength and healthy masculinity and ultimately, protect and, be the healthy energy for us women as well, to work in unity. It's a unified, harmonious dance of the energies.
Do you think men overall sort of that going back to like a traditional role where men are the protector, men are the warrior, they'll do you think that's been stolen from men in a way with this toxic masculinity, the whole, like you say, the women's revolution, the women's, do you think men in their hearts want to be the protector, want to be the provider, and they're just not sure how to do it anymore because they get knocked on both sides?
Yeah, and I think so. And ultimately, us women want that too. And we, as I said, we try and teach them through the feminine. Like, a lot of us brought up sons as single mothers. We did our best. There's no knocking that. I mean, look, I got 2 sons, so I'm the ultimate example, but we can't be a father to them. That's a completely different energy. We'll bring them up what we want men to be, but ultimately a good man isn't always going to bow to the feminine. And we probably wouldn't teach our sons that. A man in his healthy masculinity will ultimately make the decision from his mind and his heart, and he'll make the best decision for the good, not necessarily what an emotional energy of the feminine might have chosen. So, but that teaching only comes from men. And again, here I'm trying to teach what men need to learn. I'm right out of my comfort zone because I'm not a man. So you'd have to ask that question to a man, like, what do men need to learn from other men? And this is, the whole, I guess, concept of the heart warriors, that, men can hear it from other men. And the funny thing is, it's often maybe something that us women would have said the same, but it's different when they're hearing it from a man. And I think because, sometimes I think, well, God, why was I sort of chosen, I guess, for this role? Because as I say, it's not something I had any idea that I would do. I've been a writer. I sort of kept my face at a minimum off screen. But now, and I say, well, it was chosen for me because I guess I've got an awareness of a lot of different areas that I can direct a conversation or ask a question that ultimately I think I know the answer for, but it's better coming out of his mouth. You know what I mean? Like, I might have said the same thing, but for him to say it to the other men there, that's, 100 times better for other men listening than me saying. I'm not saying that I know everything, but obviously you've sort of got an awareness around what you think, what us women think a healthy masculinity should look like.
I had a conversation with one of your very first interviews, Blaze Grinner, who he absolutely blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God, I am like way out of my depth. No wonder I can't help the man rise, because there's so much stuff that I just don't know, like you're saying. And we've got these men that are holding space for other men, and he's an extraordinary individual doing extraordinary work. Talk about a warrior man of the heart. And a lot of the things he was talking to me about, I had no idea about any of these things about men. So I can really resonate with the fact that us women, we had to heal first so that we could hold a safe landing for this powerful men's movement that is going to sweep across the globe. And according to Blaze, he says that the men's movement is going to far outweigh the women's movement. So I'm looking forward to seeing this wave of awakening men stepping into their heart consciousness on planet Earth.
Definitely. It's so exciting. And, it's one of those things like what you focus on, you expand. So, I mean, now because sort of connected with these men, my Facebook feed is full of healthy masculinity. It really is a matter. And so I say to the women out there, just follow these guys, friend them, get their posts in your news feed, and you'll see that, you'll get an understanding into what men are talking about. And you might find it's quite different from what we would label healthy masculinity, but that's only through our ignorance. Women try and make a man into a best friend. Well, healthy masculinity isn't always like. The men sometimes have to be stoic and make a decision from their heads and the heart for the greater good, not to be best friends with the woman. So it's a really interesting journey. And one, of course, I've been on for several years just with a growing awareness. And again, I think because I had that awareness already, well, a decent awareness, not a full awareness. I guess that's why I was asked by Spirit to, sort of step into this role.
This, women expecting their men to be their best friends, I've seen it in marriages too, but the other way around, where once a man gets married, they sort of, a lot of the time they leave their male friends behind and they focus on their wife to be their best friend. Do you think this is like, and it's really sad, because as they get older and because they haven't had that male contact, it seems a very lonely place for men. And this is why I guess what you're doing is so important, because it's man speak. It's man speak. It's like if you're a drug addict, you've been a drug addict, but you've overcome it, then somebody who's going through drug addiction, it will listen to you. They're not going to listen to somebody who hasn't had that experience. So I pray that more men start to listen to your podcast and become men. Again, we want men to be men, right?
It's about, I believe it's not even so much as trying to be a man. It's stepping into our authenticity, because when we're in our authenticity, we'll naturally be in our, as women, divine feminine flow, or as men, divine masculine flow. So yeah, you can probably do it externally, trying to be a man. But again, it's like, what brings us self-honor? What, opens my heart? What, again, I'm trying to speak for men, and I'm out of my comfort zone, because I can only speak for women in my journey. So these are all questions you might have to ask a man.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, and no offense to Sasha here. Sasha Stone, you're a total legend. He's on here, man speak, man from the heart. But, he comes across as a man who is very connected to his feminine, but he's still a man's man. He's still fully in his heart, but he's not like your alpha blokey bloke, which you would think is manly, right?
I actually heard Sasha in your last interview with Sasha saying that he actually had trouble. He's been accused by some ex-lovers and that he's not in his heart. And he said he's had trouble sort of getting into his heart. So if Sasha Stone has trouble getting into his heart, we can only imagine how difficult it is for every other man, right?
Well, if you've ever read any of Sasha's poetry, you'll know that his heart is very alive and beating, but well, I'll take the liberty to say protected. So, but my next show with Sasha is going to be about poetry. So really looking forward to that. But, you know, hearts have been broken, and it takes a lot to, and I'm not just talking about Sasha, I'm talking about us all now, you know, like it takes a lot to work through that and open up. And, you know, our men are, when they're in their mission, that's their main focus at the moment. You know, they're in their mission, they're creating and building all these amazing things on Earth. So, yeah, I don't know Sasha well enough to be able to comment on his heart, but I do recognize through my own frequency when I write poetry, I recognize that in his poetry. So I know that it is a beautiful place. Yeah.
Jane did ask Sasha to marry her once at Uluru.
At Uluru. We're at Uluru.
Where he was up on the big screen and they're like, any questions? And Jane's like, maybe, will you marry me, Sasha? She's looking forward to meeting him one day and saying, hey, I'm the girl that asked you to marry me.
I'm the one you turned down, Sasha.
We love you, Sasha.
Oh, we do love Sasha. All the men that you've spoken to are incredible. Like, where do you go from here? I mean, where do you go from here?
Well, the Heart Speak is the one that started, right? And each man gets one episode. But what I realized, and again, I'll make the story short, but, you know, some of the subjects that were coming up merited a whole episode to themselves, which we couldn't really just focus on in Heart Warriors. And that was the offshoot to man, how Man Speak came created. Look, all this has been in pure divine flow. So I'm not focused on where it's going. I just know that it's expanding and I will be led in the right direction, because now I'm a channel for divinity to work through me. So at the right time and place, I'll be guided to where I need to go. You know, as I said, when I woke up and said, oh, I'm going to interview men, I didn't question it. I didn't analyze it. I was just like, my first guest, Ladi, who I know personally from Uluru and Katajuda. Oh, Ladi, come on, you can be my first guest, you know, and everything just happened in divine flow, you know, the backdrop of Katajuda, because again, long story, but that was the energy flowing through, and just the whole, I guess, sequence of questioning and opening up from day one. That was just a natural flow, you know, not anything that I sat down and worked out with my mind. So I just am trusting this beautiful divine flow that's coming through me and creating this beautiful platform that I'll always be tapped into that and guided. And, you know, and the men that come to me are the ones that are meant to be. And, you know, there's been a couple of interviews that I haven't published because they just weren't in the correct energy that, you know, of this space of men giving back to other men. And just rolling with it, you know, I'm not doing this to go anywhere or be anyone. I'm just doing it, I guess, because it needs to be done, but I'm enjoying doing it as well, because it's putting me on my edge. As I said, I was always been a writer, kept my face sort of out of it to a minimum. Like, I can't do interviews. And I know I did a few years, you know, a couple over the years, but I always sort of knew in the background that I would be called to speak more, but I always sort of had the self-limiting belief that I couldn't articulate through the voice as well as I could write through my heart. And I always felt there was not the same quality in my vocals as in my written word, because I'd been suppressed so much as a child, and even throughout, you know, my marriage. I did have a problem speaking, but today is my second interview today. So I'm like, oh, how do I get through this? And I thought, right, you just speak from the heart. When you're in this space of authenticity, what can go wrong? You know, you're not going to come off and say, oh, I should have said this or this and this, because all you can be is your authentic self. So there's no nothing wrong to say. There's nothing wrong to do. You're just here and speaking.
Yeah, we're all flying on the seat of our pants through all of this, aren't we? Or not even on the seat of our pants, but following our intuition and our guidance, if it comes down to that.
And to give you an example of what that might look like for those of you listening, like I've interviewed a few people and they'll say to me, oh, what are your list of questions? It's like, oh, I don't have any. They're like, what do you mean you don't have any? It's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to ask you. Like, what do you mean you don't know? That's what letting divinity flow feels and looks like. Can you agree with that, Gemma?
Oh, definitely. I've never had any questions. The only one that I thought, well, I had last week or 2 weeks ago, John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus on. And I thought, wow, this is, quite an opportunity to make sure I ask some really good questions. And so I did. I wrote down a list of questions. Well, I think I asked one question and he just rolled for the whole 90 minutes. So, but as you said, it's just, divine flow. I mean, you're just having a conversation. Again, it's coming from the heart and it's exploring, like a man might bring up through his retelling his deepest, darkest moment, something about, I don't know, alcoholism or violence or, anything that comes up, and they're all so different. And it's then digging deeper into that little flower that's come up, and opening that and exploring that. So it's really just taking the opportunity to get as much different aspects of healed masculinity and the broken journey from, darkness into light as possible. So, there's something for everyone watching that everyone can, resonate with through the whole series.
On a personal note for you, through these conversations, do you feel like your womanhood has become more? Like you say, you're flowering into more powerful woman because you're connecting with these powerful men?
Well, I guess I'm stepping more into my mission, which again is just trust, flow. It's beautiful to be surrounded by this healthy masculine energy, which is part of my healing journey as well. And I can feel me getting a bit emotional now. So it's definitely part of it. I guess I'm just blessed to be the one that's on screen with them. But I think every woman watching this is getting that healing from, the healthy masculine energy. So, I can't remember what your question was, but did that answer?
Do you think it would be fair to say, after having all these beautiful experiences and these beautiful conversations with men, that you would never enter into a violent or abusive relationship again?
I wouldn't have, like, before this. I was way past that, sort of having healed that and being aware of why I did it and being able to then live in gratitude that my ex-husband was my greatest teacher, and just working through that, and obviously it happened. We split up. My sons were very young, 1 and 3. So even though we're not so connected now, we navigated bringing our sons up, even though he was overseas and obviously didn't have from choice, but keeping that sort of friendship, place of amicability open. I was never one of these mothers that would in any way, despite whatever had happened between us, bring that energy to affect our sons. So that was a journey, and that was all where, my healing took place, basically those 20 years. They're 20, nearly 21 now, 20 and 23. So 20 years, it's been a healing journey. It doesn't happen overnight. But I'd never go back to that place. You'd learn to recognize it a lot earlier than I did, back when I was young.
With you've got sons and they're at that age where they've sort of been brought up in this system of with this transgender. They're very well aware of that. They've seen that at school, they've seen that in the community. Have you seen that play out in them as boys growing up into men? Has that been a part of there?
No, but I think they skipped that because, their ages, it's really only come in, I believe, in the past couple of years, to hit the sort of, the younger generation. So luckily, my youngest finished school at the end of 2019. So I think he bypassed all that. And so, no, luckily, I haven't had to deal with that part personally with them.
I mean, we grew up with David Bowie and a lot of rock and roll artists sort of cross-dressing and stuff anyway, and I don't think that really affected the men that grew up in our generation either. So I just sort of wondered if it's because I've got 3 daughters, so they're aware of it and they've seen a bit of it at school, but I just wondered if you've seen it through your boys. That was all, but that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of the effect of the effect of like the porn industry and Tinder and all of this on the male sort of psyche? What do you make of all of that?
Yeah, it's come up a lot, and a full admiration for the men that have spoken about it, because it's a huge issue in our society for both men and women. And I do feel it's part of the attack on masculinity, to get them into this sort of, place of, porn being available instantly and quickly online, and free. So, but what is that doing? I mean, again, a lot of men have spoken to this, but as a woman, I can only say that I feel it is disconnecting men from true emotional and sexual intimacy with a woman, because what they're learning, what they think women want from seeing it on porn, even though that might be, one aspect for certain women, for that emotional connection, that's not the way. The intimacy is a lot more than, a wham bam thank you ma'am that they're showing on the porn. So I think it's disconnected men from true intimacy. And it's through this sacred union, this true intimacy between a man and a woman, sexually, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that that's a powerful thing. So the whole attack on men and masculinity and sacred union has all been carried out through pornography. But it is a growing awareness now. So a lot of men are, and Blaze was the first one to say, he'll talk openly on it. He was our number 2 heart warrior, the one you mentioned before. He spoke candidly about it, and he said he felt it was more important. Was it him or someone else? Maybe Ryan Otis said it was more important to overcome the addiction to pornography than alcohol or any of the other addictions. And a lot of men will say, oh, I'm not addicted, well, take it away for a month and see. And saying this without judgment, but if you want to grow and expand and rise in consciousness, is probably an area that you want to be aware of, how it's impacting, your life and those and your intimate partner's life.
Yeah, because it seems to me that men want to be, we talked before, the nurturer and the caretaker of their women, but it's been all screwed up. And through the porn industry, it's sort of like they don't get the opportunity to do that. They don't. And through Tinder, it's like you say, wham bam, thank you ma'am, and it's over. That's got to really screw with the masculine desire to be to pursue a woman. It's too easy if it's just given. So
porn's quick, right? You can just get online, pull it up, it's a quick, very short, satisfying experience, right? There's no courting, there's no heart connection, right? So it's a tricky conversations to have.
Let's not, blame the men, just men in this. Us women have got a part in this. What about the women that are giving themselves on Tinder and again, I'm not judging them, but there's always 2 sides to the coin. You can't give without taking. And, it's so all we can do is, as women, bring it back to our hearts. What are we allowing in our field? If we're you can't change people at the end of the day. So what are you accepting in your life that you don't agree with? You know, it's coming back to self-honor. You know, what are we allowing in our space, and why are we allowing it in if we don't agree with it? So, you know, we have to step up and take responsibility too, to you know, creating the world that we want as individuals.
How do you see the world as we move forward, Gem? What's your vision for the future?
Well, you know, it's one that, again, it's like, do we create our own world, and that's a manifestation into the external. So my world is beautiful because, you know, I've created this peaceful mind and loving heart. So I'm already living what I consider heaven. Now, the external world, of course, not everyone's there yet. So I know there's a lot of chaos out there and suffering. But, you know, as more of us step into this consciousness of the heart and this this realm of you know, sort of heaven on earth, and then we expand that out, the more and more dots connect and lights shine brighter and brighter, and that's how ultimately, you know, we are going to bring this 5D new earth reality to overlay the system, the matrix. You know, I mean, I see it like a rainbow. You know, I mean, red's always going to be there, but which color are we living in? You know, it's like, that's how I see it. It's not like it goes away, say the red, the hell, the suffering, but we don't have to live in the red on the rainbow. You know, we can elevate and live in the purple, or what do you call it, the violet or the blue or the green, you know, wherever we want to live. So I always say that to escape the matrix, you've got to rise above it energetically, frequency wise. You know, that matrix is a energetic cage put on us. Well, you know, we can elevate our frequency and rise above it and claim our inner sovereignty. And then, you know, it's like when you're in a plane and you rise above the clouds, and it's a whole new world out there. You know, like where are you choosing to live? Are you choosing to live in that hell, that mental caged matrix, or are we elevating into, you know, a beautiful new earth that we've created? And, you know, we're no longer in the chains of the system, but it all starts within, and then manifesting that out.
Any more questions from you, Missy?
I think I'm fully satiated with the man speak and man love and heart love.
I know. I love it, Gemma, and you've really given both men and women a gift through this series of men speak and heart speak. What do you make of and when we opened up and I said we need to protect our heart, I absolutely agree with you that we need to open our heart. But what I meant by protecting our heart was because this is the last bastion. This is the last thing that we have, that the ones that would control us, they can't get a hold of it. They've tried to get a hold of it and they can't. So while we're opening it up, we need to be protective of it as well, so they can't get a hold of it, because we know how precious it is now. It's the most precious thing we have. And it's what is going to lead us into this connection to the future and to each other and accepting of each other. And through your connection with Uluru and Katachuta, speak to that, because has that been like a grounding? And we've heard that this is the heart chakra of the earth here in Australia. Do you agree with that? Is that because we're on this energetic earth plane? Is Australia special in that way? And is that what has drawn you to that sacred ground, do you think?
Well, Okay, it's the heart of Australia, but I mean, from what I understand on the Earth energy grid, it's actually the solar plexus, the power center, whereas Glastonbury in the UK is the heart chakra. But definitely at the heart of Australia, and because we've got that sacred masculine site of Katajuda and sacred feminine site of Uluru, and they're only 60 kilometers apart, which is what, 40 miles. Definitely a powerful place. And, we had that, the earth meditation there in 2020 solstice, the December solstice. Were you there then? Yeah, you were saying that's when you were there. Yeah. Well, we all did a lot of work there. And I guess I was very blessed that I was one of I don't know if there was anyone else, but I was allowed to stay in the park after it was closed. Which was totally not on my agenda because of all the political hoo-ha of who was going to do it and who was going to do it. I was like, well, I'm going out to Mount Connor 100 kilometers away, and I'm just going to go there with Lardy and, another friend and just chill there right out of the political scene. Well, I got a message at 8 o'clock in the morning to go out already to Uluru. And I thought, well, I've got plenty of time going out to Mount Connor in the evening because the solstice was 7:30 at night. I'll go out there and hang out in the women's cave. And I thought it was because, the C-19 stuff had just sort of come out and we were all going to be tested. That was the rumor flying around. I thought, oh, well, I'll head out there and no one just stay away from it. Well, then I get a phone call at 10 o'clock from Lardy and he's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm at Uluru. He's like, well, how did you get there? The park's closed. And I went, oh. Well, it was open when I drove through at 8 o'clock, 8:30. And I thought, well, I'll just stay here. And sure enough, the cars are out on the road, it's not like I was hiding. Someone will kick me out when it's time. And I sat there, and after a couple of hours, a park ranger came around and he sat down next to me and he said, well, who are you? And I told him, and he just had a little chat. And I was fully expecting him to say, well, the park's closed, you can leave now. And instead he said, have a nice day, and walked off. And at that point, I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to stay here. And, and it was amazing because then as the evening, and because not many people, well, no one else was there. I didn't see anyone, because the park was closed at the point of the solstice. Well, half an hour before that, because we'd all been told to sit there and meditate. So I was sort of sitting in the cave an hour before solstice waiting for that, when instead, as I did that, the energy came through my body to start moving. And in the end, I went out, the women's cave there, and outside there's a couple of boulders. So on there, and just like the sun was coming down, and they say dance like no one's watching. Well, literally I could, because no one else was in the park. And I had a dress on and my hair out, and I just felt I was just doing like this beautiful, light language and divine dance. And then I look at the point of the solstice, 7:32, whatever it was, I looked to my right, and I hadn't even noticed before, but you could see Katajuda, and literally brought in Katajuda to what we were doing. And just, just totally in sort of the moment, no, again, because no one else was there, just dancing, and because I knew it was a pivotal moment that would never be repeated, so. And then after that, about 15 minutes later, I heard the police siren, and it was as if they were driving around, and it was like, oh, time to go now. And they just let me in the park for that length of time. And then I said, okay, I heard him say, my car was like, how far is it out to the road? It's like, I don't know, half a kilometer, 400 meters. All right, I hear you. I'll go now.
I didn't realize the police had come out and.
Oh, well, they were, like I say, they were just, patrolling the park, I guess. I mean, it wasn't a police presence by any means. It was one lone police car that was driving, I say, because there'd been so much political direction, I guess, in the months leading up to this worldwide meditation, like who was going to be at the Rock, who was, and I was unfortunately, through no one of my own, but attacked quite heavily in the year in that year prior to, you know, to the solstice regarding my connection to Uluru, that I just totally backed away from it. I'm like, I'm good, you can have it. I'm not trying to be anyone or do anything or be anyone where in particular. I'll go 100 kilometers away, but obviously not meant to be. So again, it's just disconnecting from any expectations or attachments. But if you're meant to be in a certain place at a certain time, you'll be there.
Yeah, we sort of ended up there by accident, really, because there was a conference on which we were going to, and then we heard about all of the other stuff, and it was like, well, we're meant to be there, obviously. And it was a profound moment being there. I mean, we were in that large group with Stephen, what's his, anyway, the large group that was in town, but it was still a profoundly personal experience for all of us. Even though there was a group, it was so moving that everyone was affected in I really truly believe in a deep way. And yeah, you've spent a lot more time there, and you've got a deep connection with that soil. And it was beautiful, wasn't it? It was incredible. And it was the masculine and the feminine. This was like really a meeting of the masculine and the feminine. I had a very similar thing where the Katachuda and Uluru came together in this pulse. And it was, that was just what happened for me on a personal level at that moment. And it was like, this was the divine feminine and the divine masculine in union. And nothing like that had ever happened to me before. And I had no preparation for that, but I knew it in the moment. I knew that's what it was. And this is probably, for me, the future we're heading towards, is the reconnection of that divine masculine and divine feminine. And you are giving a gift to the masculine and feminine through the work you're doing. So,
well, you know, the greatest gift is always to self when you're in our authenticity, because that's true freedom, you know, to be able to create the divine flow that comes through us without hindrance, you know, without the mind, well, am I going to look stupid, or who am I to, you know, even think I could do this? You know, it's just, you know, the freedom the feminine feels when we're in that creative mode, and we can, you know, like dance like no one's watching. It's just so beautiful. And that's true freedom, to step into our authentic piece of the puzzle and not have any idea where we might be in even next year. I mean, you said to me 6 months ago I would have a YouTube channel even. I'd be like, what planet are you on? I wouldn't have even, and even that I would, tell me 6 months ago, I would have interviewed Sasha Stone, Charlie Freak, John Gray. I would not have been able to put the dots together in any realm of the imagination, how that would have been even remotely possible, right? 6 months ago, 4 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to do that. But it's only by unblocking all our mental limitations, opening the heart, allowing divine flow creativity to work through us, that we, you know, we each are able to manifest, create our own unique individual aspect of divinity here on earth.
I know, it's just a beautiful thing. I can hear your voice. Your voice is different than it was the first time we spoke to you, Gemma.
Yeah, you've definitely transformed. I mean, new name, new person, new energy, new frequency. You've just blossomed and transformed. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy. I'm just doing my thing. I'm being me. I've created my heaven on earth, and now I'm expanding it. And that's all any of us are asked to do, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think we've sort of hit the heart
Crescendo.
of it. The heart of it. The heart of it. So we just wanted to bring you on and say hello and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh,
and check out Gemma's series. It's Heart Warriors and Man Speak. Actually, you tell people, because you know where to direct them.
Well, it's a YouTube channel. It's called Gemma Star because originally I thought I was going to be posting poetry, but obviously, you know, that only happened once. But if you're on Facebook and you find me on Facebook, you know, my feed is full of the interviews, so you can get, you know, always find a link to the Heart Warrior and the Man Speak series.
Yeah, so
I want to
chamber.
thank you ladies for what you're doing as well, because, you know, it's all interconnecting pieces of the puzzle. You know, it's you know, your beautiful energy blossoming, projecting out into the world and creating your piece of heaven on earth. So thank you.
Well, you know, we're here to support each other. The days of dragging each other down are gone. The tall poppy syndrome is in the past. No more of that. We're going to plant our feet in the soil and we're going to grow up and rise up anew. And those days are over where we drag each other down. You know, it's in the past. So
Definitely.
thank you for joining us. It's been an
Thanks for
absolute
having me.
pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, thank you again, Gemma, and catch Gemma's series. You know, we invite you to check it out. It's beautiful. If you really want to see where the man is going on this planet and hear the voices of these beautiful rising men who are the pioneers of this heart consciousness moving forward, please check it out. Do not miss these beautiful interview series.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.